How did a nation sitting on the world's largest oil reserves collapse into a humanitarian crisis? Was its leader, Nicolás Maduro, a ruthless dictator, a political survivor, or just a man trapped by history? And can a political ideology alone destroy a country, or is the truth far more complicated?
These are the questions that define a nation's tragedy, and over the next 10 minutes, we're going to answer them. We'll trace the story of power, oil, and revolution, all except for one question, the most important one. We'll save that for the very end.
To understand Maduro, you first have to understand the country he inherited. For decades, Venezuela was the crown jewel of South America. It floated on a sea of oil, funding a lavish, modern lifestyle for a select few. It was a place of skyscrapers and beauty queens.
But beneath that glittering surface was deep, corrosive inequality. While Caracas elites shopped in Miami, millions in the barrios lived in poverty. That anger and resentment simmered for years until it found a voice.
A charismático and firebrand paratrooper who promised a Bolivarian revolution. He vowed to use the nation's oil wealth to uplift the poor, to give a voice to the voiceless, and to stand up to the United States. And for a while, with oil prices soaring, it seemed to work.
He nationalized key industries, funded social programs, and became a hero to millions. But his critics saw a different picture, a leader dismantling democratic institutions and consolidating power.
Then in 2013, Chávez died of cancer. The revolution was left without its revolutionary. But Chávez's death didn't end the revolution. It handed it to a man no one, not even his allies, truly expected to lead.
Nicolás Maduro. His story is not one of a military man or a political intellectual. He was a bus driver, a union leader who rose through the ranks of Chávez's party through loyalty, not necessarily brilliance or charisma. He was chosen by Chávez as his successor, his vice president.
Exactly. He lacked Chávez's popular touch and his almost mythical connection to the people. When Maduro took power, he faced immediate pressure. He won a snap election by a razor-thin margin, an outcome the opposition immediately contested. He was seen as a placeholder, a caretaker.
And he inherited a ticking time bomb. The economy was already showing cracks, the social programs were incredibly expensive, and the country was completely dependent on a single commodity, oil. In 2014, the price of oil crashed.
And with it, the foundation of Venezuela's entire system. This is where Venezuela's fate quietly changed. What happened next was a catastrophic downward spiral. The government, deprived of its oil revenue, started printing money to cover its expenses. The result? Hyperinflation. Prices began doubling every few weeks. A lifetime of savings could be wiped out in a month.
And the human cost was devastating. Supermarket shelves went bare. Hospitals ran out of basic medicine. People waited in line for hours for a loaf of bread or a bag of rice. Crime skyrocketed. This is when the Great Migration began, with millions of Venezuelans fleeing the country, creating one of the largest refugee crises in the world.
Right. And as the country collapsed, the politics grew uglier. Protests erupted. Maduro's government responded with force. Political opponents were jailed. The opposition-controlled National Assembly was stripped of its power and replaced with a new pro-government Constituent Assembly.
This led to international condemnation. The United States and other countries imposed crippling economic sanctions, aiming to force Maduro from power. His supporters, both at home and abroad, claimed this was an act of economic warfare, that the U.S. was strangling the country to crush a socialist government.
But his critics, including many former Chavez supporters, argued that the sanctions only worsened a crisis caused by years of corruption, mismanagement, and Maduro's increasingly authoritarian grip on power. They say he destroyed the economy long before the harshest sanctions were ever put in place.
It really makes you wonder, when a system fails so completely, is the leader the villain, or are they just a symbol of a much deeper collapse?
That's the core of it. Was Maduro the architect of the failure, or was he just the last man standing when the blueprint proved faulty? Ideology promises a better world, but reality is about managing flawed systems and human nature. When ideology clashes with a collapsing reality, leaders are forced to choose between their vision and their people. Maduro's choices, and the world's reaction to them, wrote the final, tragic chapter of Chávez's revolution.
Was Maduro a dictator, a survivor, or something else? To millions, he's an autocrat who clings to power at any cost. To his supporters, he's a survivor, a revolutionary leader defending his nation against foreign imperialism. The truth, as always, is buried somewhere in the middle.
But this leaves us with that final, unanswered question we promised at the beginning, the one that defines this entire story.
Did Nicolás Maduro ruin Venezuela, or was Venezuela already doomed before he ever took power?
If you want the honest answer to that question, the deep dive into the economic policies and political decisions that sealed the country's fate, follow, subscribe, and listen to our next episode where we put the revolution itself on trial.